Paul Hogan once hauled in a staggering $328 million from the Crocodile Dundee empire alone, a fortune that could have bought half the Outback. Yet by the grim winter of 2015, he was staring at a bank balance that read a pathetic $50,000. The Australian tax office slapped a departure prohibition order on him that felt like a life sentence, chaining him to American soil for 7 brutal years. He couldn't fly home to cradle his dying mother, couldn't stand at her graveside, couldn't even hug his siblings as the coffin lowered. His own co-stars, the same blokes who once wrestled rubber crocs beside him, had to secretly wire hundreds of thousands just so the bank wouldn't seize his modest Los Angeles home. But fate, that cruel joker, saved its nastiest punch for 2022 when surgeons sliced him open and found a monstrous web of retroperitoneal fibrosis slowly strangling his kidneys, aorta, and every vital pipe inside his belly. The steroids they pumped into him to keep him breathing melted every ounce of muscle and fat off his bones. He shovels down cream-drenched steaks and milkshakes like a starving wolf, yet remains a walking skeleton, too frail to twist the cap off a pill bottle without his son Chance prying it open for him. Flashback to October 8, 1939. Lightning Ridge, a sun-blasted speck of 2,500 souls buried in the savage heart of New South Wales, where summer temperatures claw past 45 degrees Celsius and the red dirt sticks to your skin like blood. Miners tote revolvers the way city folk carry wallets. A single opal the size of a thumbnail can make a man rich or get him buried in a shallow shaft when someone else wants it more. Paul's father, fresh from the horrors of World War II, runs the canteen like a drill sergeant. His mother wrestles 6 wild kids in a tin-roofed shack that turns into an oven by 9 a.m. That lawless, glittering hell forged the steel in young Hogan's spine long before he ever heard the word resilience. When he was 9, the opal boom went bust. The family fled south to a suffocating 2-bedroom fibro house in Granville, Sydney's rough western suburbs, 1948. Dads were pinch and spat out $3 measly a week. Rent devoured 2 of them. 6 kids, 2 bedrooms, 1 outside toilet, and a father who barked orders like he was still on the battlefield. Paul wound up at Parramatta Marist High, a Catholic fortress where the brothers cracked rulers across knuckles and dreams died young. By 15, he walked out for good. 1 in 4 working-class boys did the same back then, and stepped straight into the furnace of manual labor. First job, 1954, swinging a pick on construction sites from dawn till dusk, hands bleeding, back screaming, pockets holding a few pounds if he was lucky. Nights he huddled round the pot-belly stove doing spot-on impressions of radio legends Roy Renee and M.O., twisting Aussie slang into razor-sharp gags that had neighbors tossing sixpence pieces like confetti. At 12, he was already a pint-sized entrepreneur, charging adults for private shows in the lounge room. Same trip back to Lightning Ridge, he wandered off alone into the abandoned minefield. 500 unmarked shafts, some 30 feet deep, some laced with poisonous gas that had already claimed lives. 6 hours under a merciless 45 degrees Celsius sun, lips split, skin blistering, rattlesnakes slithering inches away. When rescuers finally dragged him out at sunset, he could barely whisper, but he swore that day the outback crawled into his marrow and never left. School nicknamed him Hoggas after endless pranks, inventing drop bears, hoop snakes, bunyips, pure bush mythology sold to gullible classmates for threepence, a terrifying tale. Substitute teachers bought it hook, line, and sinker. Detention just gave him a captive audience. By 19, he was rigging the Sydney Harbour Bridge, 134 meters above the drink. No safety harness, wind screaming, steel slick with rain. 16 men had already plummeted to their deaths during original construction. Hogan joked that some weeks he didn't lose a single painter. Every shift was Russian roulette with gravity. Nights he poured beers in rowdy pubs. roasting the drunkest patrons till one night, the entire bar erupted into a brawl that taught him the razor-thin line between funny and fatal. Still 19, he married Nolene Edwards after a whirlwind dancehall romance. 3 sons arrived in rapid fire, money always short, rigging barely paid the bills. They separated, reconciled, separated again. Divorced 1981, remarried 1982, divorced for good 1989 in a saga that played out on every front page in Australia. Meanwhile, he moonlighted smuggling opal dirt out of Lightning Ridge, picking gems by torchlight, stuffing them in his boots. If caught, he'd have rotted in jail. But 5 hungry mouths don't wait for morality. Then 1968, pure lightning. TV crew filming a safety segment on the bridge. Hogan hijacked the shoot with unscripted gags about hard hats and bureaucracy. Producers' jaws dropped. Union commercials exploded across Channel 7. 3 million viewers overnight. Bigger pay than a full year dangling off steel girders. 1970, he crashed a late-night talk show, threw away the script, unleashed a wild outback survival routine. Phones melted, ratings detonated. Fee jumped from $50 to $500 overnight. 1971, a venomous red-bellied black snake sank fangs into his stand-in on a cigarette ad. 3 days in hospital, budget doubled, ad canned. Hogan swore eternal hatred for anything that slithers. 1972, he poured his own 10 grand into a sitcom, The Little Hogan Family. Viewers spat it out, 2.1 rating, canceled after 1 episode, nearly sent him crawling back to the bridge. July 20th, 1973, The Paul Hogan Show premiered in steel-capped boots and sleeveless flannelette. 6-episode experiment nobody expected to survive. Ratings hit 2.5 million weekly. 2 years later, he was a millionaire. Sidekick Strop, John Cornell and Tiny Speedos became a national obsession. Fan mail outnumbered Hogan's 3-1. Writers got caught stealing sketches. Hogan fired them mid-rant, scripts flying. Then wrote every line himself for years. 1976, they wheeled in an 8-foot saltwater croc named Charlie for a live sketch. Charlie lunged, nearly tore handler Jimmy McNeil's arm off in front of 3.2 million horrified viewers. RSPCA threatened lawsuits. Protests raged. Live animals banned forever. They dubbed it Crocodile Wednesday. 1980, Hogan dressed as Prime Minister Malcolm Fraser, joked that fixing 10.2% inflation meant printing money faster than prices rose. Highest ratings ever, 3.8 million, but government fury forced Channel 9 to lawyer-approve every future political gag. Hogan called it the day comedy was murdered. By 1984, he was swallowing prescription amphetamines just to stand upright. 16-hour days, 200 episodes, 40% of Channel 9's ad revenue. Final episode, he walked off live television, told 800 sobbing fans he was done. Network stock plunged 12% next morning. But he already had the ultimate ace. A movie inspired by Rod Ansel, the real madman who survived 56 days in the wilderness fighting crocs with a pocket knife, drinking puddle water, sleeping in trees. Ansel walked barefoot into pubs and became instant folklore. Hogan stole his soul, gave him 0 credit, and when Ansel sued, he lost everything, spiraled into addiction, died in a 1999 police shootout. Dark shadow behind the fairy tale. July 1985, Crocodile Dundee shoot in an abandoned uranium camp that still glowed at night. Real 12-foot Saltai stalked the crew at a billabong, silent as death. Armed guards raised rifles. Grown men sprinted. From then on, every water scene had snipers. Hogan did every insane stunt himself. Always had, since faking tap dancing, knife throwing to blag his first TV gig. Linda Kozlowski arrived from America. Sparks ignited instantly. 1986 release. $328 million worldwide avalanche against an $8.8 million budget. Hogan owned 60% profits because he bet on himself. Sequel 1988. another $239 million. Hollywood crowned him king, then the fall. Almost an Angel 1990, $25 million budget, $694,000 return, critics disemboweled it. Lightning Jack 1994 with Cuba Gooding Jr., another bomb. Flipper 1996, Dundee in LA 2001, magic gone, audiences shrugged. Marriages imploded. Nolene discovered the Linda affair through screaming tabloid headlines before Hogan ever confessed. 1990, he married Kozlowski in a $2 million Moroccan extravaganza while hiding tens of millions in shell companies across 12 countries. Spent more on tax lawyers, $8 million, than family holidays. 2008 divorce. Linda walked with $20 million, the Malibu mansion, full custody of Chance. She later said it was 20 years of financial paranoia with fleeting romance. 2010, age 71, hooked up with 34-year-old yoga teacher Zoe Lynch. Lasted 4 years, then she bolted. Health collapsed. Kidney failure, dialysis 3 times weekly, wheelchair at LAX 2019. Chance quit New York to become full-time carer. 5 older kids barely visit. 2003 tax probe uncovered $37.5 million stashed offshore. Departure ban 7 years. Missed mother's funeral. Missed everything. Advisor jailed. Hogan testified, "I trusted crooks." Burned $10 million on lawyers. 2010 secret settlement. Then 2017 tax boss blabbed at a conference. Hogan sued. Won $500,000 damages, but reputation radioactive. 2012 Paramount dangled $2 million for reboot. Audition was a disaster. He looked like a ghost. Studio demanded money back in humiliating installments. 2015 near bankruptcy. Co-stars secretly loaned $500,000 to save his house. 2022 retroperitoneal fibrosis diagnosis. Fibrous scar tissue crushing organs like a python. Steroids shrank muscle to nothing. Fat vanished. He begs for burgers and still looks like a Holocaust survivor. Pacemaker, constant pain. Can't tolerate cold because there's no insulation left. May 2025 wheelchair photos sparked global death rumors. He laughed it off. Just arthritis and a long flight. Or maybe a skateboarding accident at 80. Turning 86 in 2025. Net worth clawed back to $20 million, mostly residuals and quiet commercials. Tourism Australia flew a minister to LA to crown him their first ever legend. Lunch with ex-wife Linda and Chance. First warm moment in decades. Says he wants to die in Australia. Ashes scattered off the harbor bridge where he once danced with death for a living wage. Lightning Ridge still milks tourism from the birthplace, lie he never corrected. Rod Ansell's tragic ghost still rattles chains in the background. And yet, through every betrayal, bankruptcy, illness, and regret, Paul Hogan never lost the larrikin grin. Even now, skin on bones, voice a whisper, he cracks one-liners that make nurses double over. Says the only real treasure left is kindness. A son's steady hand, old mates who refused to let him drown, and the echo of a billion laughs from a dusty lounge room in Granville 75 years ago. The Outback took his body, but it could never steal his punchline.